What's up, guys? This is going to be the full card breakdown for UFC Fight Night, Magny versus Chiesa. It's coming up tomorrow, 9 a.m. start time for the prelims. This is going to be a quick video, more focused on the bets. I haven't looked at every fight. There is over 35 fights this week between the three cards, so I won't be able to look into all of them, but there'll still be the same amount of bets. I'm just going to go through the card, cover the fights that I did look at, and then go through the bets like I always do. There is a lot of over-under options on this card, but we'll get straight into it. First fight of the night, we got Victoria Leonardo and Manon Fiorot, I think it is. So I saw Victoria's performance on the Contender Series recently. Now, she was a big underdog in that fight, and she got it done. The striker that she fought in that fight was really levels above her, but she used her grappling, and she was able to get it done. Similar opponent here where she has good striking, but she also does go for the takedown, likes to hold her opponent against the cage from what I saw. So this is a really close fight. I'm staying away from it altogether as far as betting goes. But I will lean towards Fiorot just because she does have a significant size advantage. It looks like she looked to be in shape. So, but Leonardo could pull off the upset here. So like I said, I'm going to stay away from it. But again, I lean towards Fiorot. Then we got Nurmagomedov and Sergey Morozov. Nurmagomedov, cousin of Khabib. And I think these two have trained together in the past. Looking at the tape, Nurmagomedov, he's more of a striker than Khabib. He can grapple as well. He's pretty well-rounded. And Morozov, he's a pretty good fighter as well. I do think the line is off here. But I will be going with Nurmagomedov. I don't think it's necessarily a bad parlay option if you got it a little bit earlier in the week. I do think this one will go over 1.5 as well. A lot of times you'll see that I don't go for the full decision just because the over 1.5 is more of a sure thing, and it does come through a lot more times on those fights that are more likely to go to decision. So I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov in this one. I'll say he gets it done by decision. Next up, we got Mike Davis and Mason Jones. So Mason Jones making his debut. He's a Cage Warriors fighter. He's looked impressive in that promotion. I have seen a few fights from him. But, fighters, when they make their UFC debut, they don't always fight up to their potential. So a lot of times I'll hold off until I see that first fight. I'll say right away, I don't think this one's going to go the distance. And Mike Davis, he's got some power in his hands. A lot of people underestimate him. I mean, he got it done by TKO, I believe, in his last fight. Took a loss to Gilbert Burns by submission previous to that. No shame in that loss. So this is, a pretty close fight in my opinion. I do think the line was off with Mason Jones as such a big dog when the line dropped. But I think that this is a close fight. I will lean towards Mason Jones. But again, I think this fight, not going the distance, is a decent parlay option. So, again, Mason Jones is the way I'm leaning. I'll say he gets it done by TKO in the second round. Next up, we got Jerome Rivera and Francisco Figueiredo, brother of Davis and Figueiredo. So this is going to be an interesting fight as well. Jerome Rivera does have a significant size advantage. I didn't watch enough, or look into this fight enough to really give a good pick. I will lean towards Figueiredo, but again, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rivera pull it off. He does have a bit of a size advantage, but not as much as it says on paper when you look at the weigh-ins. Could be really close. But again, I'll go with Figueiredo there. Then we got Lungiambula against Marcus Perez. So Dalcha, a guy with a lot of power in his hands. And he actually can last, into the third round. He's had a few decisions as well. So he's a pretty dangerous fighter in my opinion. He took a loss to Magomed Ankalaev in his last fight. I think it was a TKO in the third round or close to the end of the fight. In this fight, it's pretty interesting. I mean, Marcus Perez, there's been times where I was pretty high on him, but he hasn't looked that good as of late. He got taken out in the first round in his last fight. I think he's on about a 3 or 4 fight losing streak right now. So it's hard to pick him in this fight. I'm going to go with Dalcha, but I'm going to stay away from this one as well. So I'll say Dalcha Lungiambula by TKO. Second or third round. Next up, we got Mudaerji and Zaruk Adashev. So looking at weigh-ins, I didn't realize that the size discrepancy was as much as it is. Mudaerji's a lot bigger. I did have him winning. I had him as a parlay option in the last video, just an early heads up for that one. I think he should be able to get it done in this fight. Use his striking, possibly even a finish. But I'm going to go with Mudaerji here. I say he gets it done by TKO in the first or second. Next up, we got Ricky Simón and Gaetano Perillo. So this is a bit of a short notice fight for Perillo, making his UFC debut against a guy like Ricky Simón. It is going to be a tough fight. I do think Ricky Simón should be able to pull it off. He's an experienced fighter. He's been around the UFC for a while now. And I think he'll get it done. It could go to a decision, but I'm going to go with Ricky Simón here. I'll say by TKO in the third. Then we got Omari Akhmedov and Tom Breese. So this is an interesting fight. I think Tom Breese, he had a rough comeback to the UFC. I think he still might have had, some issues with the mental side of things. But he did look better in his last fight. He got it done. I think it was in the first round. And he looked pretty good. Omari Akhmedov, a fighter that does get underestimated, quite a bit. He lost to Chris Weidman in his last fight, but it was really close. Some people even thought that he had won that fight. He beat Ian Heinz and actually had picked Heinz to win that fight. Some other impressive wins in his career, Zach Cummings, Abdullah Razak Al Hassan, and even Tim Boach, at the time, was a notable opponent. So, this is a fight that I'm more comfortable in going with the over. I think this will go over 1.5. And I'll actually go with the dog here. I'll go with Akhmedov. I mean, Tom Breese does have a significant size advantage, so really could go either way in my opinion, but I'll go with Akhmedov by decision. Then we got Lerone Murphy and Douglas Andrade. So looking at the weigh-ins, Lerone Murphy does have a significant size advantage. I did have him in a parlay closer to when the line dropped. It has gone down quite a bit since then. So, definitely not as good of a parlay option now, but I am going to include it. Douglas Andrade, I mean, he's a good fighter as well. As you can see, he's 26-3, a lot of experience compared to Jerome. But, he is 35 years old. At these lower weight classes, that does affect things quite a bit. And Lerone Murphy has looked really good in his most recent performances. So I'm going to go with Lerone Murphy here. I'll say he gets it done by decision, but I could even see a stoppage in this fight. I think it'll be a good one. Then we got Tyson Nam and Matt Shnell. So this was a harder one to pick. I'm a fan of Tyson Nam. I think he's a good fighter. He does have a lot of experience. Matt Shnell does look good in some of his fights as well, though. So I think both of these guys are good fighters. Looking at it, I really could see it going either way. I wouldn't be surprised in this fight to see either of these guys pull off a good performance. But I am actually going to go with Tyson Nam. I think he has the potential to catch Matt Shnell. He's had some, really good fights against some of the higher level competition in the division. Kai Kara France, he did take a loss in that fight, and Sergio Pettis as well. But both of those guys are really talented. In his most recent two fights, he picked up TKO wins, and, he did look good. So I'm a bit more comfortable going with Tyson Nam here. I'll say he gets it done by TKO in the second round. Then we got the dog of the night, Roxanne Modafferi, taking on Viviane Araujo. So the problem with Araujo, and I do think she's a really good fighter, I actually picked her to beat Jessica Ai, and she took a loss in that fight strictly due to her cardio. Bouncing around gassed her out, her footwork. So, in this fight, if she has her cardio in check, I do think she has a stand-up advantage. She definitely has that path to victory to catch Roxanne. But the line where it's at, is way off in my opinion. Roxanne is somebody that, when you're betting against her, her style can be really frustrating to watch. Holding her opponent against the cage, pitter-patter shots. But she has been improving, and I do think that, she can get it done here. She has the potential to get it done here. And, looking at the line again, like I said, it is off. So I will go with Roxanne Modafferi. I think she has the potential to pick up a submission here late in the fight, or more likely a decision, I'd say, but depending on Araujo's cardio. Then we got Ike Villanueva and Vinicius Moreira. So, this is a fight that I think, the most likely outcome, or the one that I'd be most comfortable going with, is the fight not to go the distance. Moreira has been TKO in the first round, I think his last 3 fights. So I think all of his fights in the UFC have ended with him getting finished in the first round. Ike Villanueva, not somebody that I'm really that high on. He's pretty slow in my opinion. Just like I said, not really impressive. I'm going to go with Moreira actually in this one to get a submission. But fight not to go the distance is another decent parlay option. So I'll say Moreira by submission in the first round. Then we got Warlley Alvez and Lazzez. So there was a time when I thought Warlley Alvez, was pretty impressive. But then again, there's been some performances that, made me second guess that. James Krause made it look easy against him. And James Krause is a really good fighter, so, no shame in that loss. But he also got submitted by Randy Brown. And I thought if there was going to be a submission in that fight, then it would be Alvez picking up the submission. So for this fight, Lazzez, after looking as good as he did against Al Hassan, previous to that, he got a couple first-round finishes. So he has looked pretty good. And Warlley Alvez has a lot of experience. So, I don't write off Warlley Alvez, but I definitely feel more comfortable going with Lazzez here. So I'll say Munir Lazzez by decision in this one. Then we got the main event, Michael Chiesa and Neil Magny. So this should be a really good fight. Neil Magny's looked really good since his comeback. He was off for a while, came back, beat Rocco Martin and Robbie Lawler. Looked good in both of those performances. Same with Li Jingliang. So I am pretty high on him right now. Michael Chiesa has surprised me as well, though. His win against Rafael Dos Anjos, I had picked Dos Anjos in that fight, and he actually made it look pretty easy. So both of these guys on 3-fight win streaks. But I am going to go with Neil Magny. I do think his strength can probably keep him off of his back. I mean, Chiesa does have some good takedowns. Magny definitely has a striking advantage in this fight, and I think it will be a good one. But I do have to go with Neil Magny. I'll say maybe even by a late stoppage, 4th or 5th round TKO. But I could even see this one going to a decision as well. So it's one that I'm looking forward to. I do have a bet on Magny. And I'll say Magny by finish in the 4th round. So now I'll pull up the bets. We got Neil Magny as a straight, Roxanne Modafferi as well. I had somebody ask me in my last video kind of how I break down my bets. And if you're just trying to take advantage of a line that's off, you only have to put down a half unit to get a unit plus, back on a bet like that. So, something to think about. A bunch of over-under options, Lerone Murphy, Ricky Simone, Mudaerji. So there are a few parlay options there. Most of them, roughly the same confidence level in all of them. They're all interchangeable like last time. And a lot of the over-unders have been coming through in the parlay options as well. So, it should be a really good card. I'm looking forward to it. Midweek fights to get us through to the big pay-per-view on Saturday. I wish I would have been able to look a bit more into it. But, with all the fights, like I said, it was a bit hard to cover everything. I was really happy with the last video, all the likes. Compared to the views, it was really good. So I appreciate that. Good luck to you guys. Let me know who you have. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.